I suppose it started about 30 years ago. I was looking for some help with my medium abilities because they were a little bit out of control. So I did a lot of training with a police medium, and I've worked with other amazing mediums who had healing centres down on the Gold Coast. I've trained with Robin Smith and Bob Proctor and Jeffrey Allen and Maggie Kerr. I just couldn't absorb enough information, and it really started with me, wanting to heal me and find out what was going on that was making life feel so difficult all the time. And from there, I just found that I had a knack for it, and I was able to bring shifts and change to people that was really impacting them and their families in a positive way.
Okay, g'day. Dr. Tony here with another great episode of the Realms of Power podcast. And today I'm joined by Deb Norman, who has done a whole lot of different things. I'll get her to introduce what she does. Deb, welcome to the show.
Hi, Tony. Thanks so much. Wow. Introduce myself. I suppose it started about 30 years ago. I was looking for some help with my medium abilities because they were a little bit out of control. So I did a lot of training with a police medium, and I've worked with other amazing mediums who had healing centres down on the Gold Coast. I've trained with Robin Smith and Bob Proctor and Jeffrey Allen and Maggie Kerr. I just couldn't absorb enough information, and it really started with me, wanting to heal me and find out what was going on that was making life feel so difficult all the time. And from there, I just found that I had a knack for it, and I was able to bring shifts and change to people that was really impacting them and their families in a positive way. So I decided, well, I might as well do something with it, and that's where the quantum blueprint come from.
I love that. And different people from different realms have had so many different life experiences, as I'm sure over many years of helping people. I think you said 30 years of helping people in this realm after you had your own journey. And the Realms of Power podcast I started to really just help turn people's power on in whatever realm that is. And some people might, I've had a medium on the show before, and some people might be a bit unsure about what it is. So, for our listeners, can you give your definition of what a medium actually is and how it could help someone turn their power on?
Sure. Well, a medium means the receptor in the middle, I suppose. So you have the ability to connect in with the client here in the physical, but then also bridge that gap into the unseen and feel what's in the field and support them with whatever information they're not able to tap into themselves, or get information from their guides or your own guides. But mainly what I do now is tap into the field energy, because we're a consciousness. We're not fully here. We're too big, I suppose, as an energy to fit into the body. So a part of us is connected to the body so that we can have a physical experience. So I kind of see it like a PS4 game, like where the controller and the avatar is having the experience, but we can feel and enjoy the experience through that connection with the handset, I suppose. So it's kind of like that. So as a medium, I like to look in people's blueprint, which is their natal chart, and start with the uh, spiritual and scientific side of that, I suppose. And then as I'm talking with them, I'll slowly be able to get through the veil and start to link into what's going on for them on an energetic or spiritual realm, like on a deeper level.
Yeah. So, what was it like for you before you had trained that? You said you had abilities that maybe the average person didn't have. They couldn't feel what you could feel. And what was that like for you growing up?
Oh, it was really difficult because I just assumed, as I was quite a naive child, that everyone was the same. I had no idea that I was different until other people started pointing out to me that I'm different, and I felt very isolated from that, not just in my family, but, at school especially. It was quite hard because I'm if we take it back to my blueprint, being 0 degrees Cancer rising, I'm an open sponge, and I just absorb everything from everybody. And I wasn't able to cope with what I was pulling in. It was too much information. It was coming from all sides. And because I wasn't clear on who I was and where I ended, I was absorbing all this information and taking it on as my own, which was compounding my own stuff. And yeah, this is where the wounded empath comes from. It just blows you out of the water. So it was extremely hard. I would say my younger years were very challenging on every level, and I needed to do something. And I was just lucky enough that the right people dropped into my lap when I needed them. And I would say that, when the student's ready, the right teacher appears. And that's probably what happened. I was ready to do something about it.
So some people would label themselves as an empath, where they maybe have a similar blueprint. You're the expert on this, not me. And but they might not have gone down the quantum blueprint realm or had that right teacher. What's it like for those people? If you can see someone that's had that lived experience, would you say that they may have some sort of abilities that they're not aware of or hasn't been defined for them, and that's why they may not be able to stand in their power? They may, as you say, feel like they're crazy or take on other people's stuff or get warped all over, or any of those traits that is quite common.
Yeah, definitely. If anybody's feeling energy and seeing shadows or getting a download where they just have information and they don't know where it's come from, they've definitely got other abilities there. And the thing about the empath part is we're really just psychically sensitive but wounded, because what usually happens with somebody that's come in to do light work or some sort of humanitarian work is they choose a difficult family system to challenge them and to support their, I suppose, a codependence that we come through with, where we need others. But when you're doing this kind of work, it comes a time when you have to stand alone, and you need to be really strong in that. And I think the childhood, the harshness of it, where we feel isolated, is something that the soul sets up, for us to learn how to be strong, find our own courage, and stand alone in those times. Because if we didn't learn how to do that, we're not able to pull somebody else out of the well. We literally fall in with them. We need to build resilience. And when I look back at my childhood and early years, early 20s, of how hard that was, and it was really hard. I was very isolated, and I'd had a lot of babies very young. And then I had all these other abilities that were going nuts, that were totally out of control. And I know now, looking back, that if I hadn't have experienced that, learnt to build that will and resilience and courage, and then found the right people to train me in dealing with that and coping with it better, I wouldn't be who I am today. So it's all like, even the challenging stuff and the uncomfortable things create something within us that makes us of value to others who are going through that.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Can you give our listeners maybe an example of one of the abilities you just talked about? So they might go, "Oh, hang on, what's she talking about? What's an ability that Deb would have that I have no idea about? Don't know if I believe in." What would be an example of that?
Well, gosh, when I was younger, I could literally hear what people were thinking word for word. I got into so much trouble repeating that back to the big people, it didn't go down well at all. I mean word for word, and I've kind of cut that, learned how to get that to go to sleep, because it's really hard if you're out in public and you're hearing and feeling what other people are thinking about you. It really knocks you around. So I've learned to deal with that. So other psychic sensitives, they could either sense things or just know something. They can feel what's coming off another person, whether they're sad. I could walk past somebody years ago, and just go, "Oh, heavens, they've got a tumor," like, I could feel what was going on for them. So some, psychics or clairvoyants, clairsentience, there's lots of different clairs. They'll either feel what's going on with somebody, they'll see it, or they'll hear it, or like me, all of it.
Wow. So if I can think of an example, most people would accept that some people are born with a natural talent in sport. Let's say they might be really just a natural swimmer, and we could accept that that person had natural talent. And someone else could swim, but maybe doesn't have that same talent. And then if they've got the right coach, right support, right will and determination, the person with the natural ability can go very far, but so can someone else with determination. They can really have to probably work harder because they don't have that same natural ability. And I think most people would accept that. Let's talk about the psychic ability, if I can just put it under that umbrella. Some people might be born with a much stronger natural psychic ability for whatever reason, this time around in this realm with their blueprint, and others may not. Can both of them develop that if they choose? And how far could they take that?
Yes, you can develop it. The thing is, those that are really using it at a high capacity have been doing it for many lifetimes. That's the difference. So somebody might be new to it, and this is their first experience where they're learning to develop those other faculties. So it could take them a couple of lifetimes to perfect that. So the ones that are actually doing it and having access to everything, they've been doing it for a long time. Their cells recognize it, they know it, they've already completed that learning. So they're just remembering, I suppose, is the thing. Where others that aren't as far, yeah, they're just learning to develop it.
Yeah. So for someone who has maybe a different spiritual or religious belief where there is no such thing as past lives or something like that, is that just they've not remembered or it like what's your opinion on that, Deb?
Yeah, see, each soul has a soul pod, they've got their spirit guides with them, and they all make contracts before we come through about what they'd like to learn and experience. So maybe in other lifetimes they have experienced and perfected that. And this time they say, okay, I want to change the subject. I want to understand what it's like from the other perspective. So I'm going to choose a family and an environment that will feed that information to me, so I can experience that, and then at some point I'll come back to remembering who I was. But if they're remembering everything from the past, I mean, imagine if you'd had some really traumatic experiences or a very somebody murdered you. You don't want to be remembering that while you're trying to fulfill the contract of now. It's going to severely impact your ability to function.
Now, before you said something about one of the star signs, and I know you've done a lot in astrology as well, and that comes into this blueprint. Can you give some framework about how that, how your understanding of that would tie into someone where they're not living their best life, where their power's down, and if they could understand the importance of that, might make their journey or their path easier.
Yeah, sure. The blueprint is fantastic for showing exactly who you've come in to be, your challenges, your family environment, the don't messages, we call them, that you're running based on the planet aspects within the chart. So when you look at a chart and you see, say, Pluto moon conjunction in Virgo and it's in the second house, that's gonna impact your self-worth for starters. You're right from the age of second house would be in between 3 and 9 months. So, at some point in between that 3 and 9 months, depending on what degree that Pluto moon is sitting in Virgo, the child would have experienced an overpowering mother who was very sensitive and had issues with her own sensitivity in Virgo. So we're talking about highly critical. With the Pluto conjunct there, we're talking about overpowering, manipulative. So the child is going to have issues around their self image right from that age, which is going to go on into adulthood. So I would be looking at that and the aspects to it and the way out, because there's always usually a trine coming off a square, which is a hard aspect. And I'd be looking at what's the way out for this soul to be able to let go of that old program, because it's not true. It's just the perspective that the child took on from mother because it knew nothing else. I mean, up until around the age of 2, we're still connected to mother, and everything that happens to her, we believe is happening to us. So we take it personally and we create files based on that. So, if you're looking at a lot of adults that haven't done any personal development or spiritual growth or anything, you'll be looking at, you're dealing with the child up to 7 years old. You're not dealing with the adult most of the time, because 95% of what they do and think is coming from their subconscious programming. And the first relationship we have around nurture and the feminine is mother, and the first relationship we ever have around the masculine is father. And if mother's doing that, and then there's a hard aspect with the son and father energy, then you're learning at a very young age how to do relationship and how safe or unsafe it is to be with masculine and feminine energy.
So, for the listener again, and probably myself to a degree, if you could take it back just another step so we could understand more about when you're saying Virgo rising or Pluto. So, there's some aspect that a lot of people just wouldn't even understand. Could you give like a real basic summary of what that looks like, what that actually is? Is that like at the time you're born, the star sign is a certain thing and that's what you've come into? Could you explain that for me, please?
Sure. Okay, so your blueprint, what happens is we take a picture of the sky at your first breath, your moment of birth, and freeze that. And that creates a map of your soul's journey here. So the sun, it's wherever the sun is, what sign it's sitting in, that is actually what they refer to as the star sign. So it's where the sun is, and wherever that is sitting in the chart, that's where you're here to shine. That's where you're meant to be going. So the other chart aspects, all the planet placements and how they interact with each other, are the journey that you take to become your sun and shine.
That's beautiful. And what about when you talked about the second house? So that was like the 3 to 9 months. Is that correct? Or what does that mean?
Yes. Yes. Well, we look at each house system from the ascendant, which is the birth experience, or before that, the 12th house, which is the last trimester. Then we go to the next house, and it's 9 to 18 months. And we follow that round, and we can look at the degree of each planet and give you a pretty accurate account of what happened and when, which programs were instilled by a particular events. So each house system represents a piece of the sky that we can. You've heard of cusp, right? If someone says I'm on the cusp, or the sun, you can't be on the cusp. The sun can only be in one place at a time. It's either late degrees of one sign or early degrees of another. You can't be both, but you can have a flavor of both, because the inner planets, the quick movers like Mercury, how you think and speak, and Venus, how you feel, and yeah, all the smaller ones, they move quickly, and we can just look at that for how people relate to themselves and others. And it's just a map basically that we learn to read about your soul's journey, your personality, how you feel, what impacts you, your challenges, the downside, your shadow side, how you relate to others. It's just an amazing map.
Can you give me an example of maybe someone that you've seen that because you would have seen so many people, I'm sure, over the years of doing what you do, that's come in and they maybe have just been referred to you by someone, and you've then given them this quantum blueprint analysis of them. How accurate have you seen that for them? And what have they said when they've heard your feedback? Have they gone, "Oh, how did you know that?" All this sort of stuff.
Yeah, it actually blows their mind. What I used to do is invite people into my private group. I had a group of 30,000, and I'd do a reading for them on their chart in the group, and they'd just be like their mouth is on the floor and they go, "Oh gosh." And then they'd join my programs and I'd work with them to sort all that out. So I have really good video reviews and written reviews, and I've always had great feedback. I don't think there's ever been anyone say, "No, that's not right."
That's just amazing. And yeah, I guess the proof for a lot of people would have to have that experience, because a lot of people would be skeptical. And then when you just go, okay, so what do? You find out exactly where and when they were born, all that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Oh, that's amazing. Now, we were just speaking off air before about some of the things you've got coming up, or some of the can you say more about, yeah, where you've been speaking? Because you've been doing some podcasts, you've been doing public, sort of coming back out into sort of sharing this stuff. Can you share with our listeners some of the things that you've been doing or are up to coming up?
Sure. Well, first of all, I write the astrology for Oracle Me magazine. I've been on the cover. I'm part of a angel tarot deck that's in Oracle Me. I'll be going on the next cover, I think it's the July, August, September edition, and still writing the astrology for that magazine. I've been on the cover of Inspire magazine. I've co-written 4 books. 2 of those were with Pat Massetti, business coach. Yeah, I've had a couple of podcasts that are flying around. I think they're on my YouTube now. And I've got a speaking event in August, which, I'll advertise later when I'm allowed to let everyone know about that. So I'll be talking there, and I'm looking at doing some workshops soon, hopefully up around the Mullaney area
Hmm.
on
Yeah.
spiritual awareness and development.
Yeah, that's amazing. So people can come and listen to what you're doing. And if someone wanted to find out about, oh my God, I'm lit up by what Deb's saying, I need to see her. How do they find you? Where would they go?
They can go to my website, which is www.quantumblueprint.com.au, or they can find me on Instagram, which is all lowercase, so it's the underscore quantum underscore blueprint, or they could find me on Facebook under Deb Norman.
Yeah, that's awesome. So I'd like to go into like a little journey right now and just say, you've had this life experience, and my goal in Realms of Power has been to help turn people's power on. So whether that's just being more authentic for themselves, doing more of what they love doing, having more freedom in their life. And if they're going through their life, and with what you're saying about this quantum blueprint, if they don't know that map, it could be a harder journey for them. And wouldn't it be nice to just be a little easier? So if there was a way that you could share what someone would go through when they first see you, through to how that understanding of the map actually helps them turn their power on.
Okay. I remember one client, she was struggling with her whole female line where they were all hyper independent. And I went through her chart and explained to her what was going on and why, and what belief systems she'd taken on from that. Then she joined my 3-month program, and we worked through all her early conditioning, everything that she was holding on to that hadn't been expressed or reviewed and rewired, and just totally changed the negative aspects in the chart to the positive expression, because chart energy or planetary energy, it's neutral. It might represent the power, but it doesn't tell you how you're going to use the power. That comes from what lies within. So it's your early conditioning kind of mixed with your birth experience, the in utero downloading you get from your lineage from both parents, and then everything you've taken on in that first 7 years, and it all creates files in the subconscious, and then we start acting from that. And if that becomes repetition, like a daily program of behaviors or mantras, it then gets pushed into the body, and the body becomes the subconscious mind, and it becomes addicted to cortisol and other chemicals. So then when it's kind of getting low on that, it will access through the body a drama or a challenge that you'll react to, so that it can set off the chemical release and get a fix. So I remember one of my mentors used to saying that we're we're drug addicts, that we're addicted to our own chemicals. And so what my work does is it rewires you to be able to release the right chemicals in the body to enjoy yourself and be happy without having to create drama to get that fix, because we're rewiring the old belief systems. And to do that, you've got to get into the subconscious, which is not always an easy place to access.
And so what happened with that client? She did that 3-month program, and where did that
Yeah.
lead to?
Oh, it expanded her business like you wouldn't believe, in her income. And I remember talking to her again about, she works with disabled children, helping with speech. And one of her clients, he was nonverbal, and I was able to link into him and support her in understanding what was going on for him so that she could support him better. And she's doing great now. Absolutely wonderful. I think she's even starting to do some of this work and, look at building a business for herself in this area as well.
Yeah, well, that was going to be my follow-on question. If someone's had that experience, that lived experience, and it's helped their finances or it's helped their relationship, surely some of those people would go, I need to explore this. I need to look at that realm and go, how could I develop that? And as we talked about earlier with the psychic abilities, whether we've forgotten or whether we just don't have those capabilities, how does someone learn that or develop that? I'm sure that the star signs and all that can be learned, but to develop, say, the clairs, so the clairvoyance or the clairsentience, or how do people actually develop that? Is it just practice? Is it the right teacher?
Oh, absolutely. It's great to have a mentor who's been there and done it. It's for guidance. And it's energy body work, which is what I teach. You've got to understand that you're an energy, you're not your body. It's just a part of who you are here as an identity, but you're not your body. And once you understand that you're an energy field and how to work the energy field within the body and outside the body, and learn to trust, and yes, lots of practice, because it's a muscle that you have to develop over time. Yes, you will start to see or hear or feel things, and you may only have one of them, and that will be your expertise, or you might have two of them, or you might have all of them. It just depends on, how open you are to being able to develop that. And of course, your blueprint may not have been accommodating the full hit in this incarnation. So that's something to look at as well. But everyone is like a piece of a puzzle. They're all very necessary here. And when one of them isn't here or doing their purpose, it interferes with the field tremendously.
Can you say more about the field? Because I've explored right into the toroidal field, the actual physics and science of it, but also you're talking about the field as a quantum field, the whole field. Can you give a definition of what you say the field is?
It's the whole energy and vibration of everything living, everything around us, from our bed to the trees to the animals. Everything is in this energy field, and it's all vibrating. And it depends on where we're vibrating to what we see and feel. So the reason some people get things that they want and others get what they don't want is because they're vibrating with that. So everything is around us all the time. It's just our level of frequency that calls the shots on what we're seeing and hearing. So right now, right around me right now here, this is the field, and there's billions of vibrations just circling around me, but I'm only resonating with certain ones because of where I'm at. I could drop my frequency and get, say, I got depressed, and I'd start vibrating and matching with lower vibrations and energies. And then I'd start pulling in negative experiences and maybe things where, people go, I've been attacked by spirit or something evil attacked me. What it really is a lower frequency just in the field that was always there, but they didn't see it or feel it until they vibrated with it. So that's the field. And it's up to us what we experience depending on what we're emitting frequency wise.
I love that. All right. Well, look, we better wrap up this episode then. And based on what you've just said, it sort of feels I resonate with that so strongly. Is there any final wisdom that you could share with our listeners of how they could match that frequency in that field, how they could turn their own power on and vibrate at the level that they're really trying to resonate with?
Sure. They've got to do the work. We've all had to do the work to get here. We have been programmed. I mean, we've got lifetimes of experience stuck in our DNA. It's like a big library. And then we have the birth experience, and then we have our early environment, and we've got layers and layers of sticky rubbish just connected in ourselves. And then we're out in the environment picking up from everybody else unconsciously. So our aura's all sticky and yucky. So I would probably start there. Clean your aura up daily, ground yourself, and do the inner work. You need to have that spiritual development happening. You've got to do the work. We've all had to. There's no way I could do what I do now if I didn't put those years of study and that daily practice into unlearning my parents' paradigms and relearning how it really is for me.
That is a fantastic summary. And whatever realm that is, that applies to really, if it's just your physical body, do the work. It's not just going to happen. And in the spiritual development in the field, do the work. That's a beautiful, solid message. There's no shortcuts.
Yeah, that's it.
All right. Well, Deb, look, it's an absolute honor. I feel really privileged for you to come on the show and share with us your message today. And for our listeners that have tuned in, really just expand your mind to be able to go, maybe there's things I haven't even looked at before or haven't even been open to the possibilities. And some of Deb's teachings might be something that you could follow up on and check out in your realm. So for our listeners, thanks again. Have an awesome day. See ya.